Okay, here we go, Ben. You're on.
Somewhere.
Oh, my bad, go.
Alright, I'm Ben Greenwald, and I'm going to be talking to you today about the prohibition of marijuana.
Yeah.
And how it's more harmful to society than beneficial. Now, the reasons given for this prohibition originally were things like you would go insane or you would go kill your mother, but nowadays we know that's not true. And usually the reasons given now are health related. And like any smoke you inhale, it can cause allergies or coughing, but that's pretty much it. And it's nothing compared to what tobacco smoke, which is legal, can do to you. And according to the National Academy of Sciences Institute, in a 1999 report, marijuana is less dangerous than alcohol and tobacco, and it has no physically addictive characteristics. Now, people have been reported to be irritable after not using it, but someone who likes video games is probably also going to be irritable if you take their Xbox away. And also, according to the U.S. Center for Disease Control, tobacco has caused 435,000 deaths in the year 2000, and marijuana has not caused one fatal overdose in 5,000 years of recorded use. And most of the health problems associated with marijuana are related to the ban. Because it's illegal, there's no way to regulate how it's handled. There's no wash your hands before returning to work, basically. And also there's no regulations on what kind of pesticides or fertilizers people can use. So I digress. There are, in Title 40 of the Code of Federal Regulations says that marijuana cannot have pesticides used on it, but other legislation says that marijuana cannot be grown, period. So this is kind of canceled out. As a consequence, there have been cases like that of Jay Ware, who was paralyzed for 3 days from handling marijuana at a medical marijuana dispensary that had been contaminated with a pesticide. And it's been called a gateway drug, but according to Ralph Tarter, professor of pharmaceuticals at the University of Pittsburgh, this progression may be most common, but not by a considerable amount. And it's also been discovered in the 1980s that humans have a receptor system for THC, which is the active ingredient. And this is the reason that it's good at relieving pain and nausea. And another problem with this prohibition is that most of the crime it's supposed to prevent is caused by the prohibition itself, because it feeds the black market. And according to the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, in 2006, 60% of drug cartels' revenues was from U.S. marijuana sales. That's $8.6 billion. The same thing happened in the 1920s with alcohol prohibition. And when something is illegal, it goes onto the black market and it's picked up by organized crime. And these drug cartels and other organizations rely on the bans to keep it off the free market. And because it's becoming legal in California, according to Mexican and California law enforcement, mom and pop growers in California are starting to hurt the drug cartel's profits. Only these mom and pop growers aren't assassinating government officials or kidnapping people. And another problem with this ban is that it costs a lot of money, and in two ways. The first way is that it costs money to enforce it, because according to public policy researcher John B. Getman, every year the American taxpayers waste $41.8 billion combined enforcing everything. And according to the FBI Uniform Crime Report in 2007, in 2007, 872,000 people were arrested for marijuana crimes, and 90% of them were for possession. This wastes jail space and clogs court systems, deprives law enforcement resources, and costs a lot of money. The other way it costs a lot of money is that it's the #1 cash crop in the U.S. It costs more than wheat, corn, and soybeans combined. In closing, for over 70 years, our government has attempted to eradicate its #1 cash crop, which is now used regularly by over 25 million people a year, with nothing to show for this effort but billions of dollars denied to our economy, only to support criminal organizations or be wasted fighting them. The claim that prohibition is successful and necessary is ridiculous. And the idea that marijuana will soon be eliminated from America and the rest of the world is, yes, this was a pun, a pipe dream.
All right, the proposition's clear. The phrasing's a little bit awkward. There's no preview of what the contents are. In the structure, one of the problems is that there aren't really numerical claims on each of those points. Each idea comes up in another thing, and another thing, and another thing. So it sounds like a string of claims that are not being very well put together. They just seem kind of random. I think at the end you've got an argument that talks about prohibition failing, but that's an assertion at that point. You need better evidence that shows, for example, the expenditure of money has failed to reduce the number of users. It's failed to reduce the amount of demand, that demand's increasing. That shouldn't be hard to find some information on to support that position. Some of the arguments about the impact on organized crime, for instance, I think are potentially good ideas, but this information about mom and pop groups growing their own, it's hurting the drug cartels. I don't really have any information on that except that there's some law enforcement officer or some organization said this somewhere, and I don't think that that's really very reliable proof. I thought you had better proof on some of the other points about the relative safety or some of the potential problems that people might face because of this. The issue of health effects, sometimes it's a little underdeveloped. The idea of the paralysis, for instance, that results from the use of pesticides, I don't know, that seems like a big sidetrack issue. You've got one example of a health risk here, and that's all that you're arguing on there. Maybe take that out and spend some more time on maybe the economic benefits that we'd have. The delivery needs to be a little bit more energetic. Hands in the pockets is a little bit distracting. All right. Thank you.